Hey there, this is Jeff, one of the authors of the weight loss book Speed, and this video post is going to be on fiber and its connection to our health and weight. And this will actually be one of probably a series of 5 or 6 videos on this topic. The idea that dietary fiber is very important for our health and weight management is commonplace, and the general view is that a lack of dietary fiber plays a significant role in many of the diseases in the United States, particularly like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and then obviously obesity and weight management issues. So the thing is, though, I've come across enough evidence the past number of years that make me question some of the common views about fiber and health. For instance, Gary Taubes' book, best-selling book there, Good Calories, Bad Calories, devotes a chapter on the fiber hypothesis, which again, the fiber hypothesis is basically that we need to get a good amount of fiber in order to be healthy. So he talks about that. Also a book called Fiber Menace, interesting book highlighting the fact that fiber is maybe not so great and that actually has some potential negative effects. And a number of other posts. Actually, a colleague of mine, Don, wrote a good little post on fiber at his site at primalwisdom.com. So again, there's been enough stuff over the years that's made me want to kind of reconsider this topic. The other thing is that Matt and I recommend a low-carb eating style because of its positive effects with weight loss and weight management. We think it works well for a lot of people. And so typically one of the first questions that we get is, well, where am I going to get my fiber? Because of the ubiquitous view that we have to get a lot of fiber to be healthy. So the first thing, though, to point out is that typically on a low-carb diet, if it's around 100 grams a day, which is a common amount, it's easy to get 20 to 40 grams of fiber from non-starchy vegetables, nuts and seeds, and a little bit of low-sugar fruits. It's typically easy to get a good amount of fiber from those foods. However, if you're doing a very low ketogenic type diet, it certainly is possible or very challenging to get a lot of fiber with that low amount of carbohydrate intake. But the thing is that really unhealthy? And so that's what I'm going to be exploring over this next 6 posts or so. And so my goal here is to review the research on fiber and health and weight management over the next 4 to 6 weeks or so, and really see if there is solid evidence that it is actually the fiber that's really important, and also how much and where we should get it from. If it is important, how much evidence or solid evidence is there? And my current feeling is there's not a lot of great evidence to support that fiber is real important, or higher amounts of fiber are real important, or actually that useful for particularly long term. And so at the end, I'll conclude, and there'll be one of our new reason reports that will come out and giving all the details of what I found. But this next 4 or 5 or 6 video posts will kind of give you a glimpse into what I'm looking at over the next number of weeks during that process. And also, so what I want to do now is just look at one of the studies on fiber and health and just kind of point out, I think, some of the potential shortcomings or just general conclusions that have been made. So this first paper I want to give a quick overview of is a relatively recent paper, 2008, and it was published in the Journal of American Dietetic Association. And it's actually the title is The Position of the ADA, Health Implications and Dietary Fiber. Quite an intensive review paper. And so they start off by saying that reference intakes about 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories, so about 25 grams for females and 38 grams for adult men. Again, generally because men tend to need to eat more than women, but it certainly would vary on basically how many calories you're taking in. They do say next that appropriate kinds and amounts of dietary fiber for children and for the critically ill and for very old are unknown. So there's really no intake there. And that the dietary reference intakes for fiber are based on recommended energy intake, not clinical fiber studies. I think that's interesting. Also, they start out their paper with kind of highlighting different grades of evidence, which is good because there are varying degrees and some are better than others. And so they have a grade 1 through 5, 1 meaning good, 2 meaning fair, 3 meaning limited, 4 just expert opinion only, and 5 the grade is not assignable. They don't go into much more detail of really what good would mean, but they are giving a range of that. So I want to just go over a few aspects of this. They do state no data available to determine an estimated average requirement and thus calculate a recommended daily allowance for total fiber. So there's no really RDA, but there's an adequate intake instead was developed, which is what I mentioned about 14 grams per 1,000 calories. All right, a few things to point out. The adequate intakes for total fiber are based on the intake level observed to protect against cardiovascular disease based on epidemiological, clinical, and McCanus data. Then there's no adequate intake for fiber in healthy infants, ages 0 to 6 months. Fed human breast milk, which is really the perfect food for infants, but there's no fiber in that. So that's an interesting aspect that I'll be getting into, is how if you're breastfed, which can be 2 to 3 years, there's no fiber really there, yet no problem. So is that something unique because of the infancy stage, or just due to how breast milk is or something? So it's just, I think, interesting to look at. Then also limited data available for the elderly. They don't give a specific range, but I'm guessing 60 plus. And then they also state that in the U.S. intakes tend to be below what's recommended, around 15 grams per day, which again 25 to 35 or so is the range for women and men respectively. Interesting aspect here, they talk about scientific support that soluble fibers lower blood cholesterol, whereas insoluble fibers increase stool size is inconsistent at best. So again, the evidence maybe not so good there. All right, next. So they go over 4 particular aspects: cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal health, weight control, and diabetes. Those are key things that they're looking at. So for cardiovascular disease, first they start out with that the type of evidence is grade 2, which is fair. So not grade 1. So grade 2 already, it's not starting out so great. And it's mostly all based on epidemiological studies, which I'll get into more over the weeks. That tends to be kind of limiting on quality of data. Let's see, next. Let's see, bowel function, grade 2 is limited. Grade 3 is limited, so even on the lower end. Not so great of evidence there. Interesting with digestive, certain author that they review the literature on the etiology or the cause of constipation found essentially no evidence-based publications. He suggested that teaching on constipation is based on myths handed down from one generation to the next. Etiological factors thought to be related to constipation, dietary fiber intake, fluid intake, physical activity, drugs, sex hormones, and disease status have not been systematically evaluated for their relationship to constipation. Even on rigidly controlled diets of the same composition, there was large variation in daily stool weight among subjects. Sex is known to alter colonic function. So on that aspect, interesting. On weight control, grade 3 limited as well. Not very good information, or quality I think is lacking there. And I'm going to get into detail on each aspects of these over the weeks, and then obviously in the final report. Diabetes, grade 3 as well, limited data there. And let's see, a couple more findings here. Certainly they do point out that fiber does have the potential to minimize or decrease the absorption of minerals, though maybe not at normal 20 to 40 gram intake, but certainly higher, and certainly from supplemental fiber maybe. And again, they state a lot of what is known about the benefits of high fiber diets come from epidemiological studies. I think that's very important, and I'll probably stress that a lot. And then when it comes to kind of digestive health, a recent review suggested a strong case cannot be made for the protective effect of dietary fiber against colorectal polyps or cancer. Also, fiber shows inconsistent results in chronic constipation, IBS, and diverticulitis. So it doesn't seem to be much evidence there. However, it's kind of weird that then they conclude clinically dietary fiber should be considered as a therapy for bowel syndrome, but not be applied across the board as proven therapy. It doesn't even seem like the evidence is that clear that it really should be used at all. So, let's see. A couple more things, and I guess I'll wrap this up. Just want to look. And again, one of the last things, they point out some potential negative effects of fiber and mineral absorption. So I think overall, though, in general they conclude in this paper that fiber is really important. Yet all the evidence, none of it was grade 1. Most of it was grade 3. So overall, the evidence is, I think, on the poorer side. Doesn't mean it's not useful. So I'm going to dive into this next 6 weeks and hopefully get some more solid foundation of whether fiber really is that important. So anyways, I hope you find this somewhat interesting. I know my nerdy self does. And so again, I'll be posting probably once a week for the next 6 weeks as I review all this material. And typically I'll just review one study or one review paper each week, kind of give you an insight into what I'm looking at. And then again at the end conclude with one of our reason reports. So hope you enjoy. Take care.